If you want fresh insight on building connections, creating content that resonates, and cutting through the hype in B2B marketing, this conversation delivers. We break down what most marketers get wrong about community and actually keep people engaged. You'll hear how personal branding ties directly to business growth and why small in-person meetups are outperforming those big conferences. Let's pass the mic. Hey y'all, welcome to the ClearVoice mic, short for Marketers in Conversation. I'm Taylor Moon, Director of Content here at ClearVoice, and today I'm joined by Matt Carnevale, and he is the Head of Community over at Exit 5. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, thanks, Taylor. It's great to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we're really going to just pass the mic to you and kind of see where the conversation takes us, which is exciting. I have a lot to dig into, but before we really get there, I'd love for you to just kind of give, for those that might not know you, a little bit of background as to who you are, where you've been, and where you are now.
Yeah, for sure. Again, Matt from Exit 5, head of community. Started my career about, like 6 or 7 years ago. I actually started my career in sales as a BDR. Was selling marketing software to small business owners. Part of the job was making 75 to 100 cold calls a day. And
Of course.
it's safe to say I didn't love it pretty quickly, about like 2 weeks into the job. I tried to quit, and my boss had convinced me to ride it out, which I'm glad he did. But anyways, about doing that after about a year, transitioned my way into marketing. But the sales part taught me a lot of great stuff about sales and about marketing. But yeah, then the rest is history. And then I was an in-house B2B marketer for about 4 or 5 years. Through that journey, I became an Exit 5 member. Exit 5 is the largest online community for B2B marketers in the world. So I was listening to the podcast newsletters, became a member. And then after a couple of years, it was Dave running the show on his own. He was looking to hire a part-time social media and community person. And at the time, I was a fully fledged in-house B2B marketing manager. I was running point on all of our North American marketing efforts. But I was like, you know what? I really wasn't feeling inspired in my work, and I wanted to work under somebody who was like really legit top 1% marketer. And I had applied and got the job in a really creative and interesting way. So started working with Exit 5 part-time. And then a couple months later, they brought me on full-time, and that's how I'm here today.
That's how it goes, honestly. And that's actually a pretty cool story to be a part of the community and then
Mm-hmm.
obviously come in. I didn't know that tidbit.
Yeah.
So I do love that. Going back a little bit, I think you made a post maybe a few weeks ago and I really resonated with it. It was about how being a BDR or being in sales prior to marketing is really like kind of like a superpower or an asset that many people overlook. And that hit me because I myself have been a BDR, and yes, those metrics that you have to hit aren't maybe the most fun, if you will, and in some of the things you have to do. Obviously, I think the role in itself has quite evolved, especially since I've been in it. But yeah, lots of cold calls, but it gets you out of your comfort zone and it lets you learn a lot. And it definitely does set you up, I feel like, for marketing. I just wanted to share, like, that really resonated. What kind of sparked that, if you will? I'm curious, brought that back up to mind for you.
Just a bit of reflection on like my past and kind of what got me here within my day to day, just noticing certain things that always bring me back to that time period in my career. I think
Mm.
like the reason, just like uncovering it a bit, like it's such a superpower because of all the fundamental things that are the same in marketing and sales. So I think that's a big piece of it. I think like the lows of sales can be much lower than the lows of marketing. So it's really good from like a resilience standpoint, but especially if you're an in-house B2B marketer, I think just like understanding the psyche of a salesperson is like already is the biggest thing and like the
Mm.
biggest superpower of it all. Like when I was in sales, I didn't even really like think of marketing that much or like care for it. They were doing stuff, but like I was just kind of like, sure, you're passing me off some leads and I'm calling them, and like you kind of do some stuff on our socials, but like at the time I was like oblivious to like what marketing was really responsible for. And yeah, like just knowing like, oh, for like a lot of the time, salespeople are just like wrapped up in their monthly targets and their head is so focused on that.
Sure.
And just to like know what that feels like, I think is like a big enabler to know how to like do good sales enablement and build good relationships with
Yeah.
the sales team
Really
as a marketer.
collaborate.
Yeah.
I think it takes understanding whether you've been in the role or not, absolutely, to be effective and efficient. And at the end of the day, they do have to correspond and work together. Otherwise, what are we doing really?
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah,
I feel
exactly.
that.
Yeah. And I think, if you haven't worked in sales, like it's what you just said. It's like actually like getting an idea for like what's going through their head on a month to month basis
Mm.
and like seeing them like at their high and seeing them super stressed out is a really good thing to empathize with for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I can empathize for sure, having been there. But yeah, 100%. And for putting you on the spot here, but kind of taking it back to Exit Five and where you are now, for those that maybe aren't familiar, maybe they're not specifically in B2B, but what's your kind of elevator pitch, if you will, for Exit Five and the community you really helped build?
Yeah, so I think number one goal of Exit 5 is we help people in B2B marketing grow their careers. And we do that through two ways: content and connection. So on the content side, we put out a bunch of content inside and outside of the community that'll help you get smarter about every topic you could think of when it comes to B2B marketing. And we typically do that by tapping into our community and pulling experts into the
Yeah.
conversation. And then the second part of that, and a big part of that, big part of community, is the connection side. We help you find and meet other peers that are like you. So if you're a product marketer, you could find other product marketers going through similar things you are. If you are in
Mm.
the manufacturing and industrial industry as a marketer, we will help you find other marketers in that industry. If you are in the city of Toronto and you want to do a local meetup with other members in your city, we help do that. So that's a little bit about what Exit 5 helps people in B2B marketing do.
Yeah, I can testify. But absolutely, I love that elevator pitch. That really sums it up for people. But I think that sense of community could also be established regardless of B2B, B2C, B2B2C,
Mm-hmm.
or industry, right? I think it's
Yes.
something that people could really take a look and emulate. I myself have been able to connect with some really cool folk within content and broader scale marketing. But I also love what you said, and you kind of hinted at this a little bit in your intake as well. Was community is something kind of you're shifting, or a focus you're maybe bringing back to the forefront as of right now is not just, yes, online, but trying to get more in person uh, elements, events, connections going on. I could probably we could dive into that and talk so much more, but I would love to hear kind of like why furthermore now. What's that kind of looking like for y'all?
Yeah. So that's a great question. I'm happy to go deep here. It's really top of mind for me right now. So it'd be great to talk about it. But yeah, I think it all started. So when I first joined Exit 5, interesting little story. But the way that I got the job was I actually created a YouTube video where I was like pitching the different ways that I would grow Exit 5 if I were to come on board. And one of the things that I pitched was like local chapters. So Exit 5
Mm,
Toronto, Exit 5 New York. And then
sure.
when I joined Exit 5, so that was always top of mind. Then when I joined Exit,
Mhm.
and the reason why it was top of mind is because as a member, I was like, man, I would love to just like go for a drink or like go for a coffee with other
Yeah.
marketers in my city. So that was the first thing. And then when I joined, it's not something we tackled, or yeah, we tackled right away, but like it was always something people were asking about. And I just don't think I paid it enough attention in the beginning, but I'm glad we're doing it now. But then also
Yeah.
fast forward to we did our first in-person community event last year, September 2024, which was Drive. We're doing another one soon in like less than 2 weeks. We'll be there, and that was when absolutely bonkers. Like I've never seen anyone go as crazy for an in-person event as they did. And I'm not just saying it because I'm Exit 5. Like I actually have never seen people enjoy an in-person event as much as they did at
Yeah.
Drive. So that was a signal where it's like, okay, our community members want to meet in person. But
Hmm.
any marketer who's been in the events business or has hosted events knows that it takes a ton of work and resources to do.
Yes.
Even if they're profitable, you pay for it in the time and energy it takes. So that was kind of a blocker after that event. It was like September 2024, and we're like, whoa, like events are a huge product market fit in our community. Like we should go do more of these, but it will literally like drain the focus in every other area of our business. So we can't invest in this yet, or invest in it in that way where we're doing like events all over the country type deal.
Hmm.
But we
Especially
were
in a
still,
small knit team, I might add too,
yeah,
right?
we're a 5-person team, so that's like
Yeah.
would be a focus killer. It would take all of our focus. So then we still were doing some in person. Like we went to, where did we go in November last year? We went to Austin. Earlier this year we went to Boston. So we were like, okay, we'll still do these one-off things, but same thing, taking up a lot of time.
Hmm.
And then this last month, I mean, again, just we were getting so much signal that like more and more people were asking, when are you doing more in-person stuff? I want to meet others in my city. And we were just like, all right, we need to find a way to make this scale. So what we did was we tried this, or we're trying right now, this ambassador program, which is you as an individual can be an ambassador for your city. And your responsibility as the ambassador is to host these local meetups. And they're
Yeah.
not conferences, they're not these intense events. They're just like
No.
going for dinner on a Thursday with some people in the community. And anyways, we're working on that right now and rolling it out. We got a bunch of great stuff, a bunch of great cities where we're doing these small local member-led events. So yeah, I'm really
Hmm.
excited about that. I think the demand has been there for in person for so many years now, and it's only getting more and more. So yeah, that's kind of the story behind what we're building right now and like why we decided to do it.
I love that. And in one way, people want it so much, and if they will, they'll help make it happen too. So in a weird way, you do have help externally and internally, obviously within the community. So it's also weirdly kind of and nicely self-led. And I love that. It's very casual. And I will say the events that you do, when people hear events, I feel like there might be a little bit of a trauma from people, and they instantly think conference, right?
Mhm.
Like, and no shade.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed my fair share of conferences, but I've also been to conferences that are just, it's a lot, and it's a
Mhm.
lot of peopling. It's Tell me, or kind of help me explain, if you will, to the guest of what the distinctions or the differentiators really are when it comes to your events, and not just the local meetups, but more so event wise, what that looks like.
Yeah, for sure. So I think like there's a couple big distinctions. I think obviously number one is, I mean, one obvious one is like venue. So we haven't done it at like the event center at a Marriott, which
Convention
is,
center or something,
yeah,
yeah.
nothing wrong with that. I mean, I get it. They are literally built for that. But if you've been in any of those rooms for like 8 hours, you will know they're like energy sucking.
Absolutely. It sucks you.
uh,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
cold, yeah, all of the above.
yeah, exactly. It's just the vibes aren't there, and I think we as a society are moving, especially like our generation. We like things that are aesthetically pleasing. We like things that are like picture worthy and Instagram worthy, and
Hmm.
I just think like that type of like white walled room that has no character to it just doesn't appeal to our generation. I think maybe an older generation that's all they knew. They were just going to go to those things, but people will still go to
Sure.
them. I just don't think they'll enjoy them as much. So Exit 5 typically, we did our bigger event in Vermont at a super cool co-working space where the backdrop was a lake. We do our events
Oh yeah.
typically in like these cool like bars or places like that. So yeah, I think that's like venue's a big first. I think the
Yeah.
second thing, which we may have a leg up on some other people, we're kind of lucky, is like we don't have anything to sell per se. Like if you are a member of the community, like great, but you don't have to necessarily be a member to attend them. You could just buy a ticket. So if you bought the ticket, then you're kind of there. We do have sponsors, but the sponsors don't have like these booths where they're like pulling you in trying to sell you stuff. Like that literally doesn't exist at any of our events. We have a lot more interesting ways to activate our sponsors. So I think like you're not walking in there knowing like this. I know this company does have a software that they probably are going to want to sell me at some point, or like hit me with some email after to sell me it. So I think
Yeah.
that's like, it puts everyone at ease and puts their guard down. It's like no one's
Hmm.
trying to sell me anything.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big one. And then the last one is, I think we have a lot of common ground from everyone who's coming. So like everyone who's coming is like either a member of the community or maybe they listen to our podcast, something. They've engaged with Exit 5 in some way. That's why they're there.
Yeah.
So everyone's coming to the table with some baseline of understanding and like knowledge of like what this is all about. So that really really helps too. Like when it comes to just like connecting people out of the gate and getting them talking to one another.
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah,
it's interesting. I haven't been the sole events person, but I've definitely been involved, and it's a lot, as you've said, but it's always been interesting to me because I've been at booths, right? And I've been on the other side of it too. And like, I get it, I'm accustomed to it, but where have I connected or where have I seen the most connections? It's those smaller moments of like a hosted dinner
yeah,
where we could just like sit down and be a person and connect. And we're kind of like, that was a long day and just chat, right? And it's
yeah,
not necessarily about selling, it's just talking about what we do or maybe like our personal lives. And that creates a connection more than anything. And that's what people, I think, have always craved. I think we have a tendency now to maybe be like, oh, it's because of post COVID, or, we all work remote now and AI. And it's like, sure, I think those are little elements, but I think that's always been there.
yeah.
Do you agree, disagree? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think like the post COVID one. Okay, we were trapped in our houses for 2 years, so
Yes,
yes, of course, we want to get out and do the human thing again. But I agree. Like when before COVID was a thing, and I worked in an office, like I didn't necessarily love when I didn't live close to the office, love commuting in every day as an example, but I loved being with my coworkers because I really enjoyed being around them. And I loved going out after work for
yep,
happy hour because
happy
that was a ton
hour.
of fun. Yeah. I mean, yeah, humans love to connect with one another and meet other cool people. I think that's just in our DNA, it's in our blood. Yeah, I think the AI part is interesting. I think like because you're talking to like and having like real legit conversations with machines more frequently, you sometimes, yeah, you do just want to like step out of it and just like go outside and talk to people. I just think it's like it's who we are.
Always inherently. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm with you. I'm like, sure, maybe a slight enhancement, but I was like, for me, it's always been there. And
yeah,
even someone that is naturally a little bit more introverted, like it's still something that is a need, right?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
so I
exactly.
feel you there.
Yeah, and I think
Absolutely.
in the past, like a lot of I think there was more of a stigma in the past around like what that meant. Like it was like, oh, I have to go to network, I have to go and like shake hands, and
Yeah.
I have to wear something business casual, and like and in some industries, like we're in our own bubble. Like in some industries, that's still very
Sure.
much the case. But I just think it's gotten like a lot more like casual to just go out and like meet some random people at a dinner. I just think I see those popping up more, and people are like, oh, like I'd like to do that if there was one close to my house. And
Absolutely. When I found out I can wear jeans to something, I was like,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, we're
So
going.
it's a different vibe. I'm in
Exactly.
the right space for me. Um, Shifting gears a little bit more personally to you, I want to also point out that you post a lot of high value, engaging content, specifically on LinkedIn, which obviously makes sense where we are, B2B, all of that. Has content creation always kind of been a natural thing or skill for you, or is it something that you've had to really intentionally develop over time?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you, by the way. But yeah, I you know what I think it is. I think like I don't have some like story of me like growing up. Like all there's some people where it's like, oh, I was always like videotaping everything, and that's why like I'm a YouTube star now. Like I don't have any of that. I'm not that cool. But I think like for me, the thing is I've always been a very thoughtful person. So I've always had
Mhm.
a lot of thoughts in my head, and I would always like talk with them in conversations with like family and friends. But I just think like when I had the outlet to like put my thoughts down into a LinkedIn post and share it, that's kind of what
Yeah.
made it like that's what made it easy for me. So I think like if I had to like step back and say like, what is the learning from that about like how would I do that over again, or how would I like become a person who can like create some decent content every now and then. It's like I just think you have to increase like the amount of interesting stuff in your brain to like spit back out something interesting. There's been times when I've been like super unmotivated to write anything on LinkedIn, or like I'm
Sure.
writing stuff and I'm like, oh, this sucks. Like I'm gonna post it anyway, but this stinks. The symptom of that every time is like I'm just not ingesting enough interesting things. I'm not as like focused in my work as I should be. So when my brain is dull and fuzzy and I'm not feeding it the right stuff, that's when the output is worse. So even if I wasn't an extremely thoughtful person, like I would just be like, okay, like I'm a product marketer. Like maybe I'm going to listen to a couple like one or two podcasts this week, and if that sparks an interesting connection in my brain, which it will,
Yeah.
then I'm going to bottle that up and I'm going to share it as a post, just one post next week. I think that's how I would do it.
Yeah, I like that. And it's kind of like unintentionally married with intentional, if it
Yeah,
makes like
yeah,
it's a good balance, if you will.
yeah.
So I love that. And it's interesting too because I've talked to quite a few folks about this of, you know, how personal branding and branding, how now they very much are aligned or kind of one and the same. I actually was talking to someone earlier on the CVMIC about this and how it's interesting because a lot of people don't, give or take size, but a lot of people might not fully know your brand or know what you even do if it weren't for someone just talking and communicating. And
Hmm.
so there's these, there's your personal brand and then there's the Exit 5 brand, but there's a very distinct correlation. I'm curious, how do you decide what to post as yourself, as Matt, versus what might be better suited for the Exit 5 brand or brand channels, for instance?
Yeah, so it's a good question. Like it's a topic that a lot of people think a lot about. I think so. When I first started at Exit 5, I was primarily sharing content from the company channels. And part of this was because I was part time and I wasn't, my employer didn't know I was working with this other company part time. So I couldn't share much.
Sure.
But yeah, and like for example, like the engagement on LinkedIn was decent. I wouldn't say it was like amazing. But then when I was hired full time and like left my other job and I was able to really just like talk about whatever online, that's when I really saw like my following grow quite a bit. I think like people like what you said, like they resonate more with an individual than they do with like a brand logo. I think that if an
Mm,
individual is sharing really interesting content and things online, that'll just pass back to the company. But I think it's like a much better way to like create a wedge into the mind share of the people that you want to. But
mm,
with that being said, I still do think there are company channels that are really valuable to share good content from,
sure.
things like an email newsletter or I don't know, webinars, like live sessions from your company. I think all those things are great, and I think with those things you can very much like still have a human be at the front of it. Like I can be writing a company newsletter but still have it from coming from Matt from Exit 5,
Mhm.
or when I'm doing a live session it's still me up there doing that stuff. So I think it's like I don't necessarily have like a certain like line as to like what goes on personal versus company, but I will say like you can definitely still leverage the individual in the company stuff for sure.
Yeah. I, and I think it's been happening, let's be
Yeah.
realistic, but I think it's becoming something that's more prominent and people are taking more notice to it. There seems to also be a lot more perhaps executive buy-in to really allow their employers or their employees, excuse me, to really just talk more so than anything now. Obviously there's different industries, there's different things that are like compliance, but generally speaking there seems to be this kind of consensus or bigger buy-in to opening those doors a bit more. And also part of it could be, I mean, like you said, the brand channels, like they're still prominent, they still have things to say, but the engagement and the visibility is starting to drop because people tend to be connecting or reading other people's posts for
Yeah.
learnings, for engagement more so. So there's kind of a bit of that going on. It's been going on, in my opinion, for a bit, but I think the awareness of it has really just shot, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like the fundamental rules still apply for whether you're sharing from personal or company, which is like if you were just talking about yourself and talking about what things you have upcoming, like it doesn't matter where you share that from. It's not, I haven't seen it perform well, anyways. So I think it's like if you look at Exit 5, whether the content is coming from myself, Dave, anyone else in the Exit 5 team, or from our company channels like live sessions, newsletters, whatever it is, like we're very educational, we lead with value, and I think that that just works at either wherever it comes out of. So I think it's like first and foremost it's like what is the content, what are you actually talking about, and then you can decide, okay, do we want to distribute that in the company channel and the personal channels or both? So content first, distribution after.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And I'm curious though, have you seen a direct link or a link in general, I guess, from your personal postings to community growth?
Yeah,
I know it's
absolutely.
like
Yeah.
could be hard to like literally track, but
Mhm. Yeah, like we don't have a sophisticated measurement system in place.
yeah.
But yeah, absolutely, I've seen it. Like we've seen it through ways of like people will join and be like, yeah, you know, I saw Matt's post and wanted to join, or I love Matt's content and wanted to join. So yeah, we've seen people mention it. One thing I notice a
Mhm.
lot too is like when people join the community, you know, we have like things in place to automatically greet. Like I greet every new member that comes to the community, and a lot of people will
Mm,
say, "Oh, hey Matt, you know, it's great, you know, great to talk to you. Like really enjoy your content. Like keep doing what you're doing," type thing. So a lot of people like when they join, it's like they already know me, which is kind of cool. But it shows like, okay, I guess I'm, you know, people are reading my content and they may not be liking it every day or commenting. I'm sure most don't, but they see it. They see it out there and they know, you know. So definitely, yeah, there's a relationship, no doubt.
Absolutely. And you kind of hit on something. Yes, there's vanity metrics, but also people are like kind of like passively consuming, and you might not literally see that metric, but
Yeah.
there's stuff going on behind the scenes. It's resonating. And then I think to kind of shout you out, like, I don't know how many of us marketers, I'm sure plenty of us have joined some sort of, whether that be webinar, community, something that's going to exist more than a day. Right. And it's just like, cool, I'm in, now what? Or you get a very like templated or generic, but to get a personalized like, hey, welcome, like how you doing kind of thing, it speaks volumes, especially today, but always, right? That like little connection and having that there, I think is prominent and commendable for sure.
Yeah, well, something that, you know, we do at Exit 5 is like, and me personally, like, I spend a lot of time responding to emails, responding to DMs in the community, which I mean, it takes up a lot of time from like other
Yeah.
deep work initiatives, but and sometimes I'm like super late to reply to stuff because I open up the floodgates and I get like 50 people messaging me, and then I'm like
Sure.
a few days later I'm getting back to you. But you know, I think that's a big part of like community building and brand is like most people don't want to do those like little small tasks that they would want to like look to automate or ignore, but I think those little
Yeah.
things are like what make all the difference. Like from a content perspective too, it's like, you know, respond if someone like comments on your stuff, like responding to it as much as you can, and not everything, but you know, as much as you can. I think those little touches make a big difference for sure.
Absolutely. And I'm curious in regards to just a community broadly. Is there a general, like, you feel like people have a misconception about running a community? Um, just like more broadly, I'm curious.
I think people like when it comes to community typically think of it. I think there's two ways to think about community. So maybe I'll like demystify some stuff here. So I think there's two sides of community. There is like, are you building community or building a community? I think building community is like the broader term for like, you know, if I want to build the Toronto soccer community up, that's me saying that I want to like grow the amount of people who care about and are playing soccer in the city of Toronto. But if I want to build a community, that typically means I'm actually creating this virtual or physical like gated space where it's like you have to join and become a member, and then once you are a member, there's these benefits of being part of this community. So I think
Mm,
like there's those two lenses, and I think when people are talking about community, like they're thinking in one of those lenses and maybe not the other, or they think it's like
mm,
you always have to be building a community, but that's not always what it means. Yeah, so I think like that's maybe the first one about like what it actually means to build community. I think also like what I've seen anyways, a lot of B2B companies do is like they will see successful communities, like they'll look at an exit 5 and be like, "Oh, like look, it's communities are a great channel for B2B, so we want to start a community." And then the community is typically started by like somebody in marketing, and the goal is like we want to start this community, we want to invite our customers and prospects, and then we're going to
mhm.
share content in there, and they're going to talk to their people, and over time like we can convert these people into customers. And i I don't think that's like the wrong thing per se. I just think like that's not a good starting lens for community. I think like
Mm,
when you start with like what selfish benefit am I going to get from this, then it's like it's typically like people have a really like good bullshit meter, and they're going to sniff that out and they're going to get disengaged really quick. So I think it's
yeah,
like when you're starting community, it's really thinking about like when someone joins, like what is the actual experience and what are we trying to get them to do, and how are we like keeping them engaged. And I think that's
yeah.
a totally different lens, but it has the same outcome in the end. So I think it's just like flipping
Yeah.
it and starting with the
Oh,
end.
it's about, you read my mind. I was like,
Yeah,
it's really flipping that script, what you said of like, how is this benefiting me? How are we going to meet X, Y, and Z, MQL, all of these goals, right? Revenue goals, ROI. Sure, that's marketing. Let's be realistic. But
yeah,
let's flip it and kind of like, how is this going to benefit the individuals, our consumers, you know, the community members? What do they get from it? Because that's what really matters, and that's what's going to yield down the future. But
yeah,
we tend to get hyper focused on, like you're saying, so flip the script and look at it from their perspective, or
yeah,
what would they want, what are their challenges, like really digging deep there so that you can resolve,
yeah,
provide, what they need more than
yeah,
anything.
exactly. And if I look at how the Exit 5 community was birthed, it was pretty much like Dave had built a really big following online, and he had great community engagement. He was building up the B2B marketing community. And then people were just saying, "Hey, I would love to talk to other people that are in B2B marketing." And he was like, "Oh, like maybe I should start a Facebook group." And that's what he did. So I think it's like you don't have to have that before you start a community, but if you look at the order of operations, it's a lot easier when you already have like that audience or engagement at another level. Like if no one really knows about you or like cares too much about you, that's okay. But maybe it's not like go ask them to spend time inside of a Slack community. Like maybe that's not the right next step.
You read my mind. I was literally going to be like, I kind of shift it into content a little bit more, obviously, due to, the realm of where I come into play. But I am curious of like where content fits or where it really plays to keeping community, just the
Mhm.
value holistically, and not just another Slack group message or Facebook, LinkedIn group that really people ignore over time, right? Like you join, it's there, and then it just kind of falls to the wayside. Let's be realistic.
Yeah.
So what role or where does content really fit in doing that and keeping that just value?
Yeah. So I think it starts outside of the community. So we put out a lot of great free content. We have a podcast, email newsletter, a lot of LinkedIn
Keyword
content.
free.
Yeah,
I love
free,
that.
exactly. um, like outside, you don't have to be a member to consume any of this. And I think that really does a great job at creating like a buzz and a community for us. So that creates a lot of people who just, when they think of Exit 5, they think, wow, they put out a lot of great stuff. I've learned so much from them. And those people aren't even members of our community. Like there's so many more of those people than there are
Yeah.
members of our community. So I think like that's number one. I think if we didn't nail that, the the actual inside the community probably wouldn't be possible. So that's like number one. You got to nail that. But then
Mhm.
the role it plays inside the community is a little bit different. Like we're not necessarily just going to like do the exact same thing we do outside of the community and inside the community because there's really no purpose. We're already doing it outside of the community, and our community
Yeah.
plays a different
So
role.
what's the benefit? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the difference with content in our community is it's a lot more member driven. Like we have members sharing anywhere from like 5 to 10 like questions on B2B marketing in a day. So I think
Mhm.
like they are now the ones creating a lot of the content and a lot of the discussion in the community.
Yeah.
We also have a bunch of like virtual events that we do every single month, and a lot of those are member driven. So, uh, a member will be like, "Oh, I have a cool like use case with ChatGPT and creating blog content." If anyone still does that, not kidding, but yeah, creating blog content, and I'll just hit them up and say, "Hey, great! Like, would you be down to present this for like 30 to 60 minutes next month?" And that's it. And then they'll come on live. They'll show their stuff. There's a lot of people in our chat asking questions, and we'll answer their questions live. So it's really like member driven, super interactive type content. So yeah, I would say like that's kind of like how content plays a role in our community. Obviously there are like we still have like templates and resources and stuff, but it's like
Sure. Yes.
it's really like how do we tap into the members in the community to teach others stuff.
Yeah, and that's really what the initial need or request was, right? Going
Yeah.
back to that, like, I want to connect with other people, want to
Mm-hmm.
learn. They're having the same problems as me. Like, I have some wins, and like, you know, I'm just sitting on them, like things like that. That's we want to be able to learn, right, from
Yeah,
each other, and the best way to do that is to connect, to share. Um,
exactly.
I love that, tapping into that. And you do have a front row seat, I must say, into just B2B marketing insights, right? Like, lucky you, you kind of get to sit there and really see what's happening in various, obviously, industries within B2B. And I will say, I've been a myriad of industries myself, but I do remember when I first came to B2B, there's this general misconception that it's boring. I thought I was going to be bored, and man, was I awake. I was just like, this is not what I initially, the just general perception, right? And I think that's definitely changed now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
dating myself, that's quite a bit ago,
Yeah.
but there's this there tends to be that perception, and having a front row seat into honestly how things have really evolved right now, you get to see what's working, what's not. um, and I'm curious to pick your brain as of right now of what trends do you think are being overhyped, out of curiosity.
Yeah. Like the typical marketing answer is it depends, right? Because I think like
Yeah, sure.
another person's trash is another person's treasure. But um
Absolutely.
okay, let's just spitball some things that I'm seeing. So obviously, I mean, let's tackle the big hairy elephant in the room is like the AI trend. I don't
Yep,
think it's
I've heard it.
overhyped, but I do think what's overhyped is like how much it's able to do for you. I haven't like I'm not like the most experimental when it comes to AI, but I think I've done enough to know like it's typically a lot of the time, unless you're like feeding it really great stuff or playing around with it a lot, gonna spit out some pretty generic stuff to you. I still think the human brain can do a better job in like the first and last mile of what it's going to produce.
Absolutely.
I think it's great in the middle. I think you still have to really focus on getting it started, and then like when it's finished, focused on like refining the output. So I think it's like that's really where the biggest leverage point is. And I think like even though a lot of people say, yeah, I always edit everything, it's like a lot of people don't. Funny
Yeah.
enough, we have an AI chatbot inside of Exit 5. We had one that was like give like in our app, but then we also built one from scratch recently. It's called a Dave bot, and it's like has essentially everything, all the content Exit 5 has ever produced is put into there, and you can go ask
Mm,
it questions.
mm.
And obviously I'm not going to say like any names or what people are saying, but I can see from my and all the conversations, and people are really lazy with what they're asking
Oh
of these
yeah.
tools, and then they will come back to us and say, oh, it didn't quite produce this thing. So I still think people have overhyped what these tools can output. I still think they need a lot more. So I think that's the first one, anyways.
I'm with you on that because it can do a lot, but like it can't do anything without your input,
Mm-hmm.
without your prompting.
Yeah.
So your prompting can't be subpar. You have to really actually take the time to, whether it's templatized or not, to craft, to complete that template and to provide real substance and direction that is clear. And you will likely have to continue to reiterate
Yeah.
uh, on it to actually yield something that does make sense. And even when it does, to your
Mm-hmm.
point, the last mile, it's interesting at ClearVoice, at least on like when we had customers onboarding,
Mm-hmm.
we actually had something in the first mile, very heavily, let's get to know you, understand what you want, very consultative in
Mm-hmm.
regards to content. Not that the interim or the middle was automated, but it can be streamlined and move a lot faster. Okay, let's get things set up, right? Like, cool, we know because we spent the time with you to do that. Awesome. Okay, now we need the content produced. This is kind of mid last mile, right? But like, now we need the experts. We need people to come in and do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now we have to, but getting things set up to where they need to be and systematized, absolutely. But it takes that. Otherwise, it's, in my opinion, can be pretty subpar. And
Yeah.
you can spend a lot of time, but is that time spent efficiently? And it, again, what you were saying about trash versus treasure, it kind of depends where you are, what you do,
Yeah.
industry. There's so many different lenses to kind of look at that. But I'm absolutely with you. I feel like it's the utilization and the understanding of it more than anything.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I think like another thing that I think is a little overhyped, and this one may be controversial, and it's funny because we're sitting on right now, but I do think podcasts are a little bit overhyped, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
Hmm.
So, I mean, like you're starting this podcast, so I think it's a great idea. I don't think anyone should not do a podcast, but what I'm saying is, I think the I think where the podcast like revolution in like B2B marketing and B2B really took off was like 2019, 2020, around those
Hmm.
years. You had people like Dave, people like Chris Walker, and Refine Labs, and a lot of those people were like starting these podcasts, and the clips and the content they generated from it was going bonkers. And a lot of people were like, and they were preaching those playbooks. Like the playbook is
Hmm.
you have this podcast at the top, and that's kind of what like drives everything, and then like it all gets disseminated downstream. And I still think that playbook works in 2025. So I'm not saying it's a bad playbook, but now with what we've seen is a flood of podcasts and a flood of people who are sharing these like, grainy clips on LinkedIn that get no engagement. And I just think that if you're going to do a podcast, the distribution after is where all the creativity needs to come in play. Like I look at what everyone's done with podcasts from then, and then I look at like what a company like Vector is doing right now. If you haven't had a chance to look them up, their head of marketing is Jess Cook, who's a member of our community, someone that I really respect, and they're doing a lot of cool stuff with their podcast. It's an in-person podcast; it's not virtual, which is not always possible.
Yeah,
Um,
that's cool.
and the way they distribute it is just, if you look on LinkedIn, it's this really cool thing where they like create these like memes with Jess and the founder like talking about stuff. And it's really funny and interesting and engaging. And I
Hmm.
think like you kind of just need to like, if you're going to run the podcast playbook, maybe it's not right away, maybe it's going to take time, but you need to iterate a bit and like do something that's going to stand out. Because I don't think that way of doing it is good enough anymore.
Well, I'm with you. And it's interesting you say that. I kind of laugh because ClearVoice has been around for a while. We have always been like, we don't need it, but what? And what's funny is this technically is not even a podcast.
Hmm.
We don't have it available currently where podcasts are. It's just a
Nice.
video
Cool.
conversation.
Yeah.
Um, and it really just came about because people wanted to talk to us. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. And we want to talk to people. Cool. Let's do that. That was essentially the strategy, right? You're like, that's not a strategy,
Yeah.
but That's what it is. And we're not gun set on it. It's not our, like what you're saying, where you start. But I do feel like I'm kind of with you. It depends, but I do feel like there's a just, I mean, we could look at it broadly, but there's just a flood of podcasts in general, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
look at pop culture, you look at it's just like, where do I even go? Where do I, like, also, how do you even compete almost now? Because it is just flooded.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And I
so
think
what
like
you do with it,
people have this
yeah,
misconception of like, oh, if I go and create a podcast and distribute the clips on LinkedIn, then over time, like people are just going to start coming to our website and inbounding and becoming customers. And if that is the case for you, that's amazing. I just think
awesome.
like it's a little far fetched. And I think pitching that, I think the toughest part is like, how do I convince the higher ups in my company that that's the play and that I should spend like an hour of a week, my time minimum, just recording and then spending money on resources to get these clips edited and do
Hmm.
that like 200 times before we start seeing any results. Like maybe not 200, 50, 60, whatever it
Sure.
is. That's tough. So it's like,
Absolutely.
if you're banking on that, if a lot is riding on that, like I don't know. Maybe there's maybe have a better sales process. Like maybe do something where it's like the win might be quicker or easier. I don't know.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Absolutely. I don't disagree with what you think is overhyped. You know, whether it's controversial or not, it depends. To each their own. But
Yeah.
I'm very much aligned, if you
Hmm.
will. I I'm curious to. This seems like an interesting kind of broader question, but the role of community evolving in the broader just B2B marketing mix. How do you see that in the next few years?
Yeah. So I think community is really misunderstood in B2B. Like I said, I think it's treated mainly as I think that there's two common plays that people try and run with community. I think number one is we're gonna try and turn this into like a marketing and growth channel, which I think that always fails miserably. The other channel, which works really well actually, is like a support community. So it's like I could join if I'm a customer of Salesforce, for example, like they have their I think it's a Trailblazer community, and I could join and I could ask other Salesforce users questions to some
Yeah.
technical problems and get really great answers from them. So I think that
Hmm.
that's still a play that exists now and is going to exist. Where I think a lot of the shift is going in B2B is, and we talked about it earlier, is a lot of in person. So I see a lot of companies investing in how do I do these like local dinners or meetups in different cities where my
Micro
customers are.
events.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And get them coming to it. And I think, like I said, that builds community because what it does is like, even though I may not know anyone going into a dinner, if I meet 10 other people that are like me in my city, like maybe they become friends of mine and
Hmm.
even one or two of them. And then I associate that positive connection with the company. So I tie it back to them. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, like I remember when, you know, Exit 5 helped me meet my next coworker or my next business partner or just somebody that I connected with on LinkedIn and now I like their posts. So I think like that's
Absolutely.
what I see a lot of B2B companies investing in is like these little dinners and they're putting up the budget to do these dinners. They're doing these micro events, like you said. So yeah, I think like I don't know where it's like Slack communities and those things fit into B2B in the future, but I do know that like building community is happening a lot through those micro events right now.
Yeah. I've actually heard and seen a lot of people from the sales perspective, even obviously those micro events not being salesy, but being better opportunities as
Mhm.
well for folks. And that's where a lot of people are kind of talking about. And it could be virtual too, but really being creative about what you're doing if it is virtual, and then you know what you're doing in person as well, and allowing that just to kind of flourish. I'm
Mhm.
with you. I like that. I
Yeah.
would like more of that too, honestly.
Yeah.
So, kind of, I guess, looking at time here, closing up, I would love to maybe pick your brain about what's one of the biggest things maybe you've learned throughout your career, but about connecting with marketers since joining Exit 5.
I think like now that I've been in the seat of a B2B marketer, and now I've kind of stepped out of that. And I'm still obviously a marketer, but I'm not really like in that environment in a company anymore. I
Sure.
just
Yeah.
like, and I see this through a lot of like the questions that are asked in Exit 5 and what people are struggling with and what I used to struggle with. And I think as marketers, and it's not our fault at all, but we are given the keys to turn the dials and lift the levers in the part of the company that doesn't always move the needle a lot, unfortunately. So we are given the keys to like pick the channels and all that different stuff when it comes to marketing, run the campaigns. And I think that's great. I think that's what marketing is. But where I see a lot of marketing fail is not always because of like bad marketing or lack of budget. It's because the stuff is broken at a level that is above you. It's like
Sure.
the product is broken and in a terrible place. It is the teams are extremely siloed and their goals are very different. Its leadership doesn't have a clear vision for where the company should be, where the product should be, and how that fits into marketing and like getting everyone talking to each other and aligned on everything. So I think it's like the unfortunate truth of some marketers and their role in house is like no matter how hard you try, you're not going to change that stuff. And in that case, I'm not going to say you're doomed, but it's like that's typically why, over time, a lot of marketers will move on is because like you realize, oh, I'm just kind of stuck here and I can't change this crap. So I got to go find a company that has like a less broken process.
Or
So
allows you to get in there and help drive, right?
yeah, exactly. Or gives you a seat there, and it's like wants you in those conversations and sees marketing as a key role in all this. I'll give you an example, and then I'm sure a lot of people on this listening to this like have experienced this if they've been an in-house marketer, especially on a smaller team or like a product marketer in a bigger team. Is like a lot of the time the product team or product is just kind of like they build something because they had an idea to, or the CEO had an idea to. When it's done and built, then they're like, hey, marketing, go launch this thing. And as you're going through that, you realize like how much stuff doesn't make sense, that it's unclear why it's even built. The benefit of it is unclear, how it's different than the competition is unclear. And you're kind of stuck and forced like launching this thing that you don't even believe in. And the reason that happened is because they didn't involve anyone from marketing from the jump. They didn't go through the go to market was broken from the jump. And I just think those are the things that typically cripple marketers is like they just get past the thing that is doomed to fail. So when I
You're
see the
boxed in.
conversations in the community, it's typically along those lines, and I just want to
Mhm.
give those people a hug because it's like, yeah, it's not your fault. It's something that you can't control or need to go try and dig your hand into that cookie jar and control that different thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you haven't been there, kudos.
Yeah,
But I feel
agreed.
like many of us probably have. I at least can testify, in my experience at ClearVoice, when I first joined, it was very similar. And I was like, I'm going to dig deep here. And I started asking questions about the brand, like who, why, and getting that distilled information so that like I can actually better understand, being able to push back, right? Like having that or giving that level of autonomy or just like inclusiveness to collaborate
Yep.
that goes a long way. When that doesn't exist, you are very much kind of boxed in. And as marketers, like we are creatives, we're strategists, and that's not the typical environment that we can flourish. So,
Yeah,
you know, that's
exactly.
that's the
Exactly.
truth. Well, Matt, it's been a pleasure. I would love for you to kind of share, what's the best place for people to connect with you, maybe to get involved with Exit 5. Where can they find you? All of that.
The best place would definitely be LinkedIn. I'm very active there. If you're a member of Exit 5, you could always DM me in the community, send me an email, whatever makes sense. I'm very reachable. That's the best place. If you ever want to get like involved in Exit 5, I mean, our community is always looking for ambassadors. So if you are in a specific industry that you want to meet other marketers in industry or in a city where there's not much happening, B2B marketing related, or want to connect with others, then yeah, I'd be happy to talk, and you can hit me up in the community and we can chat about what makes sense.
Absolutely. Well, I love it, Matt. Thank
All
you
right.
so much for joining. Big thanks to Matt for sharing his take on how content fuels true community. The takeaway: community isn't a channel, it's connection. If you are ready to scale your own brand with content that connects, ClearVoice is here to help. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on the mic.